Hi, this is Nicole Sodoma. Welcome to the Space Between. Today is going to be a little different because today I get to spend and you get to spend time with Rob Roseman. And Rob is the creator and host of WTF Divorce. We don't always say WTF around here. We actually will sometimes say actually anyway. Okay, Rob is hilarious. I've so to enjoy getting to know him. He has a deeply relatable brand to all of us, especially those who have been through separation and divorce. His brand can be found across all major social platforms. Through his sharp humor, his candid storytelling, he has built a space that makes divorce feel a little less heavy and a lot more human. And for that, I'm so grateful. I've had the honor of being featured as a guest on his podcast, and I'm excited to turn the tables today for all of you. So welcome to the Space Between, Rob.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you as somebody that hosts a lot of podcasts. You got a much harder job, so I appreciate being able to be the guest and get that nice warm intro, feel good about myself. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I was actually with a bunch of divorce lawyers last week for a conference, and everybody came up to me. They're like, "What's the name of your firm? I love that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not a lawyer, but it's good to know that the name, the WTF, resonates with people."
It does resonate, and there's a lot of WTF and going on around here, so we get it. In preparing for today's podcast, I got to take another deep dive into your personal journey, and I want to get to your story and to your experience and why you started the podcast, but I have to say, I forgot that you were a former pro poker player.
I was a little nervous there. That's a cool chapter of my life. But yes, that was a before I was actually when I turned 30, I moved to Las Vegas to I was a trader in Chicago before I was a poker player, which I tell people is actually a much crazier lifestyle and gambling existence.
Yes.
Being on the floor like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Um, but yeah, I would play poker with my buddies, like in my 20s and in high school. And I had a nice big score at the World Series of Poker. And I had turned 30, and I was kind of at a crossroads in my life, as has come to be a common theme in my life. And I said, what the hell? Let me go for it. I moved to Vegas, sold my condo in Chicago, and said I'll give it a try for a year. And I actually did that for 11 years, which I still find shocking. I would go to the Bellagio or the Wynn Casino at 8 o'clock at night, start my shift, and met some characters, made some money, got some stories, but it was a very unique, as now I live in Georgia, I'm finding a very unique existence.
Yes, absolutely. So, what was your favorite? Is this a stupid question? What was your favorite poker game?
Well, so it is a good question, actually. And anybody that watches poker on TV, it's all No Limit Hold'em. Texas Hold'em is the one that they
Okay.
show. So that's really the only game I ever played. And everybody thinks like I know all the games. I'm like, I get to be good at one thing. And that was the game everybody played. So I would sit down with a bunch of, sharks and whales and just battle with them. But yeah, it was, did some tournaments, did some cash games, but yeah, it was kind of a very exciting, unique chapter of my life.
So, were you able? I mean, I can only imagine that when you went through your separation, that you heard at least, oh, I don't know, 6, 12, 2 dozen times. Oh, is this your poker face? Is this the hand? I mean, all the things that would have come off of your history as a poker player. I mean,
N-
really, did it?
I mean, Nicole, the poker. I always think in terms of analogies, and like
Yes.
a good one for poker, and it's a Kenny Rogers song. You got to know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em, and that
Right.
is like I've almost thought that should be the intro to the podcast, our theme song.
I,
But yes,
if there's a way that we can make that an intro, we should totally do that for this one. I like it.
yeah, and as you said too, a poker face, like when you're going through the divorce, which is a very unique, highly stressful container, especially when you're living with this person, you
Yeah.
really do. I take for granted that it's kind of my natural stoic disposition, but it was hard for me because you're like, you want to say all these things, you're parenting at the same time. But I know a lot of the advice you give is just like, you got to just, keep your cards close to the vest and just get through it. And sometimes like silence and being a little mysterious, it's easier said than done, but that is one of like the most valuable skills you can have when you're navigating the like divorce process.
Well, so often a client will ask me, like, they have the evidence and they want, like, if they learned that their spouse has committed marital misconduct or adultery or whatever it is, they'll say, should I hold on to this evidence? And then if you do choose to hold on to the evidence, how do you stay restrained? How do you have that poker face and continue to live in that environment? And then on the other side, which is what I call the space between like recognizing that the separation is happening, but not knowing how it's going to end. It's that space where you're like, okay, the information is out here. Now, what do I do with it? Now, am I supposed to have the poker race? So it's so interesting to me how, relatable that sport is to what you experience when you go through separation and divorce. Sadly,
Yeah.
relatable. Okay, so you have 3 kids, right?
Yes, I do. And I will add one thing to the poker because you're pulled on a lot of threads that are there. One of the hardest parts about divorce is you don't really know what the other side is what you're up against. So you're going through it with this like incomplete information and this uncertainty that's just maddening. It's like just get it over with. You want to know, but you articulated there like the feeling that people are going through of just the not knowing, but you have to keep playing. You have to get to the end of this chapter because as we'll talk about too, a lot of the divorce doesn't even really start until the papers are signed and now you've got to go figure out living in this existence. So to your answer, yes, I am a dad. 3 kids. They are 13, 11, and 8 right now, boy, girl. And I can only say, as people probably like gasp when they hear that, I said, you should have seen when I would tell people I have a 7, 5, and 2 year old when I was recently divorced. So I feel like a savvy veteran by now.
What were you doing for work when you separated?
So it's a good question because we actually picked an ideal time to separate of March 2020, which was the literal start of what turned out to be the pandemic. So they were shutting it down. And I was like, I remember even saying to my wife at the time, like, is this a terrible idea? Should we maybe push pause on this? And it was like, oh, we're already, the wheels of, train's already left the station. Let's just knock it out. But, but yeah, it was a very weird time in my life because we'd moved to Georgia for my wife at the time's career. And so I was kind of in between. There was no poker in Georgia. I was like, what am I going to be when I grow up now? We had these young kids. So I was helping out a lot at home, which is a very humbling role with young kids in a new town. I was looking for work. I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do next. So I actually started a podcast called Dad the Best I Can, where I was interviewing other dads, like entrepreneurs and athletes and comedians. Started with my friends, but I was like, same kind of thing. Like, is anybody going through this? I never heard dads talk about it. And it turned out to be a good platform for me to meet people in Atlanta, entrepreneurs. I ended up getting Jesse Itzler, Sarah Blakely's husband, on the podcast. And just like, it was kind of like a good way to network and get into the content media marketing game. And as it turned out, when I got divorced, I said, well, dadding is one thing, but holy moly, divorce is a way bigger platform and problem. So I shifted there. But yeah, I was really like going through divorce while I was also trying to figure out what the hell I was doing with my life. So I had a lot of uh, balls spinning at once.
What do you think? I read as part of your journey, what it was you somewhere I read that you described it as the ultimate opportunity to restart your life. Is that what you're describing?
Totally. I mean, I always tell people it's like you're gonna you step into a valley when you do it. So it gets worse before it gets better. But as you know in life, when you're married and it can get stale, or you're figuring out your career, you don't know what you're doing. This is like it. it's like, oh, you've been thinking about this for a while. Well, I'm going to push you off the cliff, and you got no choice now. You've got to learn to, build the plane in the air. So like it's all of those feelings, and it is really hard after it happens. Um, but yeah, it's I do think of it as like, look, I enjoy, the gamble, the uncertainty. I enjoy being kind of on the wire a little, and I don't think people that are married for 50 years, the good marriages, I admire that, but the people that are in this kind of like limbo, they don't really get that opportunity to put themselves out there and try things. So, while it can be painful at times, as any change is, it really is like an opportunity that I don't take lightly. And even when I talk to my friends, they have envy about a lot of parts of my life. They don't see the hard parts. They want to know the dating stories and then the fun stuff. But yeah, I say once you get past like that first couple of years post divorce, if you're willing to like look at yourself and your role in it and what's ahead, it's an opportunity that a lot of people don't get.
I have some friends that are going through that right now, and I want to tell them that on a regular basis. Like, take this opportunity to stop worrying about restarting your life, but start thinking about why you're here, like why you landed here and what you could do with this space. Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Now, I'm curious. Now, I represent, and the firm has historically represented, about the same number of moms and dads, men and women, um, since we opened 17 years ago. And that's pretty much always been my practice. I don't know why that is. Um, I asked one of my clients once why he picked me, just because I was curious. And he said, because you're really going to piss off my wife. I don't think that was the same for everyone, but I am curious, and I'm assuming this was part of why you started the podcast. What support did you see different for moms and dads when you were going through that process early on in 20?
Yeah, I felt very overwhelmed. I did have one ace in the hole. My friend, I'm from Miami, and one of my best friends is a divorce lawyer. So he was kind of my person that I would talk to. And he even gave me like the permission to, I think a lot of people, you just need permission, whether you're on the receiving end or whether you're doing it. You need somebody who's either been through it or is a professional to look at like your situation and say, I think this is okay. He also said, I don't practice in Georgia, so take all my words with a grain of salt. And I said, can you please at least, because I really struggled with what's the first thing you do? And I don't think I did it right, is usually like, I need a lawyer. And I said, can you look at this person? Tell me if they're legit. I found them on Google, like they got good reviews. So
Yes.
lawyers listening, you see the importance of good reviews. But I had him on the phone for my first call, and he kind of just stayed quiet. And after the call, he's like, "I think this guy is legit." Um, but yeah, it's a very. I think women are better at talking about it with their friends. They probably know somebody who's been divorced, or they're kind of like they've been open about what's going on, so there's a more natural thing. I think what once the decision to get divorced happens for guys, it's like extremely isolating and you do not know where to start. Um, so I think like that did inspire me. I remember we probably don't even remember what this platform was, but there was something called Clubhouse in 2020 that was like an audio app. And I would go on there and get it. It's almost like AOL chat rooms in the 90s. But I would
Right.
go on there and I would listen to people talk about there were divorce rooms and dating rooms
And some other inappropriate forums.
and plenty of like, but
Be
I
careful.
actually heard men talking about divorce, and I was like, I never heard a guy talk about it, and it was like a revelation to me that like there are guys going through this. And I said, if I'm going through this and I don't know what's going on, and I'm on social media a little bit, and like I wish there was more help out there. I'm not the help. I'm just a dad going through it. But I'm like, there's so many great people out there sharing this info. And I don't even think anybody knew that there was a divorce podcast or I think it's just very overwhelming and there's a ton of stuff out there. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could just like help connect people? When somebody sends you, Nicole, oh, you got to listen to this. And you're like, oh, that really helped me. Thank you. I wanted to be just kind of like, this helped me. What can I give to other people?
It's interesting that you describe women being able to talk about it differently than men. I've always said that I can count on one hand in the 25 years of practicing and almost all of that doing family law, the number of men that have come in or been on a meeting with me virtual since, COVID or since 20 or whatever, since that's the way things started to land. Um, them being emotional in the consult with me. So, I mean, I vividly remember the first time it happened and my client walked in and he just put his head on the table. And I hurt so much for him because most of the time when men come in for their consultation to discuss a separation, divorce, wherever they are in the stage, it's very business. It's, they've gone past the emotions already, or at least they don't share them. And we talk more about the financial circumstances and the things that they think they want when it comes to kids. And I'm being very stereotypical, but it is what I've experienced on this side. And I challenge those things. Like I'll say, okay, so like when it comes to financial, what does that look like? Like, how is that going to work? And then, because we talk about big expenses and I think about, a dad who wasn't maybe a primary parent before they separated and is now wants to be a primary parent or wants to share in that responsibility, which I'm going to use the word joint custody, but I'll use it really lightly because I think it's a very subjective definition. But, the first thing I'll say is like, okay, well, who's the pediatrician? Who's the dentist? Who's the like, and if they don't have, what's favorite foods? Like, when did they start eating solids? Like, I'll ask questions because I need to know what really their relationship was with parenting and what they want it to be and how to help them get there. So, and if they were the secondary parent, so often I would hear, well, if I have to travel to work, I'll just call her. No, she's not your babysitter. She's not your assistant. She's no longer going to be in that role when you want her, and I'm stereotyping, to go get a job so that you don't have to pay alimony. Right. And so do you see where I'm going? It's
Mm-hmm.
like I had to, and I love that job, by the way. I love resetting expectations and helping people meet the goals that they want to meet because sometimes they really haven't thought through it. They're just so intimidated about the process and the fear. It's so, there's so much fear with and the threats that get made to them. I tell my mom clients who are afraid to give up parenting time or where I hear fear in the conversation, I'm like, why are you calling it visitation? Visitation, I know that might be what your statute calls it, wherever you are, listener. And it might be what my statute calls it. But the reality is like, that sounds very ownership like. So, I mean, 2006, I started calling it parenting schedules and parenting times just to eliminate this fear that you were only going to get to visit with your children. And I mean, I just didn't like it. I mean, are those words that were intimidating to you in the process, or you already knew it because you had a friend that could help you navigate?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. I want to ask you a couple of questions about when you talk to guys, but I was in a rare spot where I think I was doing 50-50 of the parenting, where I think a lot of guys that you probably meet with are like in the 10-90 side. They're not doing as much. So I was like more used to that, and I was set on, we want to do 50-50. But yeah, I know a lot of guys like, they probably say they want that and then they're like, oh crap, I don't even know what that entails. Like there's ego in it, and there's I'm gonna take the kids or you're gonna take the kids. There's so much like nuance when nobody even really knows what they're talking about. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of clear that like we were gonna do 50-50, but I could see, I mean, do you face a lot of guys that say, oh, I want half the time, and then they're like, what does that even look like? Or what is that like when you talk to men that are like coming in your office?
That's what it's like.
They're like, I want this, but
It's like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, the more often it is, if dad's is the a working parent or the parent with less flexibility in the schedule because their roles during the marriage weren't that way. I mean, I felt like I had very specific roles in my marriage before I got divorced. Um, and I mean, the idea that those roles are going to be different, and if there's conflict between the two of you, you can't call on that person when you're unavailable and your boss calls you and you have to travel, or you have to travel because you're self-employed, or you have a meeting that came up. And so there are provisions that people can put in their orders that allow for flexibility. But if the two parents don't know how to communicate effectively, it makes it really difficult. And you end up, and I say this a lot, you end up really, it does your kids a disservice, but it's a reflection of disliking the other parent more than you love your children, letting that get in the way. I once had we have parenting coordinators in, at least, I think at least half the states now in the country. And do you know what a parenting coordinator is?
Well, I have heard some. Yes, I mean it's recommended. I know in Georgia to a lot of people. Yeah,
Well, I mean, I'm a PC. We have like 9 of the 42 lawyers in our practice. I think we're 42 lawyers. I think like 9 of them are parenting coordinators. And a parenting coordinator is this neutral party that is supposed to help you resolve small issues that if you were going to go to court, it would take you, months to get into the courtroom. And by then the issue is probably moot. But I had a parenting coordinator once actually tell me, in my personal case, because I had a parenting coordinator in my case when we couldn't communicate effectively. And she said, "What would you do if he was dead? That's what I want you to do." And I thought, wow, like that's really intense, don't you think? And I mean, it was really intense.
wow.
Anyway,
Well, and
uh,
yeah, and that's actually a thought that a lot of people have. We ask our audience on Instagram a lot of times, and we get a lot of messages that they'll even say, "I wish it would be easier if they were dead," or like, "I would be able to reconcile all of this because then I'm trying." It's such a complicated, nuanced thing that you can't understand until you've gone through, and everybody's had that thought, and everybody's, I can remember a story with mine is like brand new to divorce. I had all 3 kids in my new apartment. My daughter had an ear infection. My ex-wife now was like on a girls trip, and I was up all night with a crying kid. Like, I want mommy. And I'm like, I'm playing above my pay grade here. Like, I remember calling her like on no sleep, and I'm like, can you help? Like, can you save me? And she was like, I mean, let me talk to her. But it was a weird moment of like, what can you do? I was like, oh my God, this is all on me now. And it's empowering, but it's like a very jarring feeling when you're like, wow, this is. And I have a very amicable, like we are a great team, but even a great team when you're living in 2 houses, it can
yeah.
just be very foreign. So I really like uh, empathize with a lot of people going through it, and I can't even imagine if you're like not even on speaking terms with this person. Um, yeah.
Well, so you've interviewed by now probably hundreds of dads. And so I'm curious, is there a theme that exists in how dads show up after divorce that you think is maybe different than women? Or maybe I just focus, is there a theme in the dads that you've interviewed as to how they show up after divorce?
Actually, it's a great question because I think you see this too when like the babies when you're married and you have a new baby and the mom's like, "I got this," and the dad's like, "Can I help?" And you're like, "No." Sometimes we want to be given the responsibility and we're not afforded it. And when you're divorced, now it is all on you. And I've talked to a lot of dads that are like, it's hard, but I kind of like it. I don't have somebody telling me you're putting in the dishes in the wrong way. I can do things my way. I don't have somebody. So I hear a lot of dads that like, well, I know it's WTF because most of my day, in a few hours, I'll be running kids to baseball and softball and school, and it's just me. I think like we I think men in general, we like to, take on projects and accomplish and like have challenges like that. So there's a part of me that like at the end of the day, while I'm exhausted, we feel like we really contributed, and I can spend time with my kids, especially like my all three of them actually, but like I'll have one-on-one moments with them, rare, but like where I can have an influence on them that I probably couldn't as like the business of married parents, where it's like just functions in a different system. So, the wheels are falling off half the time, I feel like, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing enough, but I think I'm having like and I think with their mom too, she's getting to experience like a really amazing part of the kids' lives that you don't necessarily get when you're in that married container, especially if it's not a really the healthiest marriage.
Oh, right. And I mean, I'm thinking even beyond that, even beyond the parenting aspect, my one of my biggest accomplishments was when I bought my first leaf blower. I mean, like I was never in charge of the outside of the house. So buying my first leaf blower, which by the way broke about a month ago, and I got a new one, and I was equally excited about my leaf blower.
Right.
So there are but yeah, like even the conversations that you get to have with your children that are one on one or even in a group setting, it does feel different, and there is a lot of empowering moments in that where your kids get to see this other version of you. Where I always felt like sometimes when you are a party of two, that you could use each other as a crutch,
Mm.
and one of you could check out and the other one was up, and maybe it was the reverse, and you don't get that choice, but there's also something really empowering about that. And I'm a marriage loving divorce attorney, so I appreciate the power of two, but there is also something to be said, for what that looks like after divorce and when you're parenting on your own. Is there, you know, I want to say, like, if someone is listening that is terrified of starting over, we've probably, I hope that the conversation we're having makes it less scary, because it takes two to say I do and one to say I don't. And if you're the one that didn't want to get divorced, a lot of times it is a lot scarier than it would have otherwise been. So, what's the first small step you would suggest, and that you've encouraged the dads that you've talked to do if they're terrified and it wasn't their choice?
Yeah. At first, I think it's like empathize with, despite what a lot of people will tell you, this will be great for you. We never liked her anyway. You're going to meet somebody better. Allow yourself to be like upset. Allow yourself to be scared. Like, I think resisting that, as like a lot of guys do, we're just going to power through. We're going to get through this. We're going to meet the new girl and get married. Like, it's really hard, I think. And I think like just being able to allow yourself to feel that is something that I struggled with, as like, oh, I'll just fill my time and do this. So I think that's one. Is just like I think there's kind of when you're going through divorce, there's like this dismissive feeling, like nobody understands it, like they're just trying to make me feel better. And the reality is, like, I just want I remember, and I met this friend on social media, and she was just like, I'm really sorry you're going through this right now. I hate this for you. So just like, one is try to find those people, and they might even be online, which is a little weird to say, especially for guys who like maybe their friends were all couples friends. It's like, find somebody that's been through it that could just relate to you on that level. You got to be careful, because it can get kind of like trauma bonding, where a lot of people be, I'm like, oh, you're being a little too negative. I don't want to hear about your ex-wife this whole time. But try to find somebody that has like, kind of a disposition similar to yours, that's gone through divorce, and just and talk to them. I guess the other piece would be like, get outside. Like, I just read something like, don't trust any thought that you have when you're sitting down or when you're inside. Like, get out and just walk, or obviously get to the gym, things like that. But like, a lot of times you probably haven't taken the best care of yourself because you've been going through this thing. But like, move your body, be around people, go to the gym where you're just surrounded by other people so you don't feel as isolated. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of it is really just like know that like this is a normal feeling and that like you will get through it and it will be hard in the beginning. And I think that's hard to get from your family or, your married friends. So I feel for a lot of like guys going through it because like it's an unavoidable pain. And I think, I mean, I'm sure you girls go through it too, but like, I did not know I had the ego I had until I got divorced, where everything just like cuts you, and you're just like, and then your ex-wife is dating, and you're like, oh my god, you hadn't dealt with a lot of this stuff, so know that it's normal and know that you will get through it. But yeah, there's other people. We're dealing with it too out there.
I'm dying to ask you about your dating life, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to ask you a few more questions. What do you wish that you knew early in what do you wish you knew then? Like, what would you tell your 2020 self?
Hmm. I would say,
Like, what was your WTF divorce moment that you laugh about now?
yeah, maybe don't date a week after you get divorced. Maybe give yourself a minute. Like we're done. I'm the cliche, like, oh, better get on the dating apps. I gotta meet somebody. Not even to meet somebody, just to have human connection. So I think
Yeah.
maybe to like sit in it a little longer, be okay being uncertain and upset. I think that was one thing. I don't regret it because I think I learned a lot. I actually met some good friends, had some fun, like got validation I hadn't had, but I was seeking connection, not even necessarily like the physical. We all think like, oh, guys just want to meet somebody new. It's like I think like putting yourself out there a little more to meet other. I find it harder to meet guys than to meet girls, surprisingly. Like you can get a date, but like I just want to go to the bar and have a burger with a friend and watch the game, and that was something I really struggled with. So I think that's one piece of it is maybe you know tilt a little more in that way, but also just like be a little gentler on yourself and like accept that like I always say resistance is futile. Any parent will know that. Like if like just surrender to it a little bit. And even if that's going to be like, this day is going to suck. This week has been just terrible. Like, give yourself the grace of like that first year after divorce. Just if you could score a 5 on it out of 10, like you're doing great. Like, work on, know that like I'm going to get better, but it might not be right now. And I guess I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, you don't have to crush it year one after divorce.
That's really good advice. My favorite piece of advice, one of my favorite pieces of advice was to give yourself a break. Like just take the day off from your divorce. Just take the day off. Don't read an email from him. Don't read an email from your lawyer. You don't have to be the most amazing parent today or the most amazing at anything. Like just take the day off.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll say there's another. I mean, we could unpack so many lessons. Communication after divorce, because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I got to talk to this person every day about the most important thing of our lives. That's
right.
insane. Learning the art of like pausing. In today's world, we feel so reactionary, especially with text. Text can like trigger me a lot, where I'm like, oh, ding, I got to respond. Like, it's okay not to respond. Sometimes it regulate your system. I think we can all get caught up in like I need to say something back, or you talk a lot about it. Like cut off the last part of it. We didn't have ChatGPT when we were going through divorce.
Yeah.
Just like say less. I think is like a good motto to have in your head.
Well, and it was one of the reasons that we named this podcast the Space Between, because that is a big part of what I was so used to just responding to my ex-husband in real time all the time because we sort of worked together. We did all the things together, right? And so all of a sudden holding back from that response was really hard. And it is that space where it's so easy to be reactive. And I was so proud of one of my kids the other day. texting, and he said, "It's too much. I'm going to turn off my notifications and take a breather." And I was like, "Wow, that is fantastic. What a great coping skill. Can you teach me how to do that?"
Right.
I was so proud of him for recognizing that what was coming in on his text message was too much. And he could feel his own anxiety and wanted to put a pause on it so he could put some space between that thing that was triggering him and not responding. Anyway, and you know, that is, I wish I could say like it was behavior. He was like, there was some sort of model to that behavior, but he came up with that one all on his own.
I mean,
Right.
look, I think we are modeling behavior that we probably didn't do it when we were married. And like,
Right.
I don't think anybody that's getting divorced, we probably didn't have the best boundaries. We were probably on the codependent side. And it's like, divorce is going to teach you a lot of things. Like, you might have got away with not having boundaries, but like, you're going to have to develop that muscle. And all of a sudden, like, you are going to be teaching your kids that. And even if you're not telling them directly, they're seeing you like, bite your tongue or take the high road in places you didn't. So, I mean, look, a big reason we get divorced is because we want our kids to see a healthier version of ourselves and have better relationships. And I mean, you want to talk about like what are opportunities? Like, even if your life sucks, you can think about like you're giving your kids like that gift. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of married people probably wish they could give for their kids. And if nothing else, like we're able to provide that because we got divorced.
And when you feel that shame that you think is projected on you, being able to stop and remind yourself that it is a gift, like what you're doing is a gift if you believe it to be, you know,
Hmm.
it's a mindset shift. And it means, you know, especially for that person who's terrified, who didn't make the choice or who feels like it is the right choice to make, but is scared to do it because of the shame they might feel from their friends or what their spouse is going to tell them if they make that choice. It's so important. Okay.
Can I butt in with one question that I take on the host hat too easily? You're a divorce lawyer. You're a divorce mom. You deal with men going through divorce, and I'm sure you know the statistics better than me. I guess 80% of women are initiating divorce. What is something?
You read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of guys feel that like blindsided. We were probably complicit. It's probably our fault in a lot of ways. But like, what's a piece of advice you could tell guys that are coming to you that have been dealt like this piece of information, this blow to their ego? Like, I know you're wearing the lawyer hat mostly, but if you could talk to like a guy going through that, what would you tell them?
You know, I want them to come see me when the flags are there so that I can help them fix it. Um, there's uh, there's a piece of art on the wall in one of my conference rooms. I had met I had met this fellow at an event. We had mutual friends. He calls me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I want to pick your brain." I put that in quotes because I hear that a lot. As a divorce lawyer, for some reason, that is all. That's what I hear. That, can I pick your brain? And I'm always like, oh, I guess they're thinking about separating or some, but like it's always what's going to come. And so he said, "Can I pick your brain?" And so we went to, and I thought it actually. They seemed really happy in their relationship. Having me as a dinner date or at an event, I'm always like scanning. Um, based on my experiences looking at relationships. And anyway, long story short, we sat down and he was thinking about leaving his wife. And I gave him lots of resources on how not to do that. Like he had not done the things that were necessary. If you're in a partnership and one of you thinks that counseling might be necessary, you go to counseling. They're trying to tell you something. You know, that they're afraid to tell you, whether it's because they don't want to say it out loud or because they don't know how you're going to react. They're looking for a safe space to heal or remedy whatever it is they feel like is broken. Um, gosh, I already forgot your question. I'm so passionate about, you know, giving what you can before somebody has made that decision, because when someone's made that decision, they're making it for you. Trying to convince them that they're making the wrong decision is not the thing that is going to drive them back to you. In fact, you should take a hard look at yourself and figure out why it is that they've made this decision for you, so that you don't repeat it, so that you do, and best case scenario, you come out healthier on the other side, and maybe you end up working it out. But that takes two very emotionally healthy humans. And so I like to really focus on that in my conversations, because it does take two of you to get to that space, and two of you to fix it, because you can't change the other person. The only thing, which it sounds cliche now, the only thing you can change is you, and how you show up and how you respond. So I think I've lost the question that you answered, but
I think that really does help, because I think to your point, nobody talks about it. All just comes out at the end. And I think like being receptive, owning it, it's something that we all struggle with. So again, it's like this permission to explore it. If you have to get divorced, like check the boxes before, because it's amazing how hard conversations can be in general, even with your spouse. Hard conversations are hard.
I mean, I would say, like, even in my own separation, I think that my ex-husband thought he was blindsided. And I don't think, not the conversations that I recall. I recall very different conversations between us. So it didn't feel like he should have felt blindsided. But that's his perception. And, you can't, other people's perceptions are their realities. And so stop trying to change those perceptions. You're not going to win. And I mean, I still, find myself, for the sake of my children, protecting him, so that they have a really, really positive view of what marriages and relationships and, what all of that can be. So, it is an interesting conversation to have, especially when clients come in and they feel blindsided, because most often they really weren't blindsided. They just never knew that it had gotten that bad, and that they didn't realize it, or they didn't want to realize it. So, all right, I want to do one more question, and then maybe a little rapid fire.
Please go ahead.
Well, maybe two more questions. One, I want to know your favorite podcast other than WTF. And two, I want to know how you choose the professionals that you partner with in WTF, because you have professionals that you work with and that you support all over the place, and they're really great. But I'm curious how you find them, how you pick them, because it does reflect on who you are too, as a podcaster and an influencer. So those are my two questions.
Yes, good question. So when I used to listen to a lot, I've been into podcasts when they like first started coming out. I was listening to all the self-improvement, Tim Ferriss and all that. And at this point, like I do believe you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. So I do need to repeat. I like a lot of like Alex Hormozy entrepreneur stuff. I'm like a marketing nerd, so I'm usually like working all the time because I want to learn what these smarter people than me are doing. Other than those, I like stand-up comedians like a Theo Vaughn, just like turn my brain off, laugh at the absurdity of life. Like, so I'm usually nerding out on the marketing stuff, or just like want to laugh, because I think you learn a lot too about like just human beings listening to comedy. So yeah. And then the other question about, I shouldn't throw it back at you. How do I pick professionals? You know what's crazy is
you want to provide for your listeners, for your audience.
I tell you what, and this is what I tell lawyers. This is why I think it's so important today. It's a very new thing. When you have videos and you can show off your personality and get to know people, I think you're giving like people a glimpse into who they're going to work with, the vibe that there is, their values. And like I'll just watch videos and they'll pop up. I mean, I think that's how I found you, is because you were producing a lot, you're putting yourself out there. And you can, it's almost like we've never even met in real life, but you can just say, oh, I align with this person's the way
Yeah.
they think, and or you'll watch somebody else and you'll be like, ugh, it's kind of, you get the ick where you're like, I wouldn't want to recommend somebody to that person. So it's what I tell a lot of the lawyers we work with who are uncomfortable getting on video, which I'm sure, I mean, maybe you took to it right away, but it's like a
No,
learning curve. No?
no, I
Yeah. But like
was
you
very critical of myself. I'm still fairly critical of myself.
you're seeing the human side though. I even tell people, a lot of the lawyers love doing like the Instagram lives because they're like, this is what it's like to work with me. I'm going to stumble on my words. I'm a real person. And it's very hard to get that on a website or a Google review. It's just the way that people are finding people today is through social media, it's through video, it's through podcasts. And like, if you're awesome and you're putting it out there, I think it's a great thing for other people to find you because, that's one cool thing about WTF Divorce that I forget sometimes because I'm already 5 years past divorce. It's like a new baby being born every 5 minutes or 30 seconds. Like somebody's getting divorced that is completely clueless, that has never even heard of a parenting plan. And like, I think like having that message out there for the person that finds it for the first time, and they can find somebody like you. I'm putting you on the spot here because we're talking, but like if you have the right guide to get you from like this point of just absolute terror and uncertainty to signing your papers and can give you some context, because I'm a big believer in a lot of the hard work doesn't even start until you're divorced. So that's a lot of our content too, is like just get through this and then we'll get to talk about co-parenting and dating.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking for professionals that are putting themselves out there, that are willing to look foolish sometimes. They're willing to like share just compelling messages. Yeah, I think it's extra compelling when you've gone through divorce yourself. So I might be a little like partial to lawyers that have said I've gone through this and they speak about that. I find that very relatable. But yeah, roundabout way of getting to your question. Just like everybody else, I'm finding people on Instagram. I think that's just the way people are searching today. So if I can help people discover who would be searching for Nicole Sodoma, it's like uh, only if you're maybe in the local area. But if I can spread that message to more people who could even like tell their friend, oh, you're getting divorced, I saw this person on this account I follow, I'm divorced already, I think it's really funny, but I see their videos a lot. I think like it's a gift to be able to connect somebody with somebody that can really help.
All right. So is what can we expect from WTF Divorce next?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, what, people are coming for the memes and the humor. I'm like, sometimes I throw up a little too much legal content and like we get crickets, and I'm like, I tried, what do they say? A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. I'm always looking for, there's so many, just, I don't know if you just scroll Instagram, but like, there's so many incredible creators that I just find brilliantly hilarious. And I just want to keep sharing more of that. And I feel like that brings more people into our world. So as much as I do want to focus on like the legal content, I think it's important. Sometimes I have to remind myself, like my main job is to just get more people to our party. So then we can introduce them to the legal stuff. So,
Awesome.
um, but yeah, I'm working on, we've got our website, WTFdivorce.com, where we're again trying to like make it easier to find the person instead of endlessly searching and searching. Just like go to the website, click divorce lawyer, you see Nicole's page, you can watch a video, you can read reviews, you can get a feel for who she is, but just trying to make the process like a little less painful and faster. I feel like that's a big complaint I'm sure you hear a lot. This whole thing just takes forever and it's so expensive. So if we can help you get through it faster, then we're doing a good service.
All right, to my rapid fire.
My
Some
favorite.
of this will show my age. Wheel of Fortune or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh man. I have a love relationship. It's got to be Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I mean, anybody can, if they want to have a drink later and go on YouTube, search my name, you will get the 5 minutes of just pure fun. I had a memorable experience on that show when I turned 22, and you want to talk about like no spoilers, but like what failure will do for your life, I feel like that changed the trajectory of my life. So, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Regis forever.
All right. Book or movie?
Yeah, it's got to be movie. I feel like I'm reading less and less. I ask my I don't even know if my kids read books anymore. So movie.
Coffee or Red Bull?
Oh, coffee, black coffee, 100%.
There was a time I would have said coffee or tea, but I think
Mm.
coffee or Red Bull feels more appropriate. And let's see, burger or acai bowl?
Man, I used to ask rapid fire questions to say if you were on death row, what would be your last meal? Cheeseburger. I love a good cheeseburger.
There you go. Well, thanks for having fun with me with my silly rapid fire questions. And I am going to go and look for that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire moment that redefined you
Mm. It's a
before your
it's a
next.
doozy.
Well, thank you, Rob, for being a part of the space between. I so enjoyed hanging out with you and look forward to all the things that are to come.
Thank you, Nicole.